I'm sharing my screen. So my screen is visible to all of you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yesterday we have done some uh, loops like while loop and for loop, and I have given you some practice exercises about that you have to get the print of first 100 numbers. So have you done some part of that? Uh, okay. Have uh, you can say Anusha and Dheeraj, you have done some part of that.
Yes.
Like I have,
Yeah.
you have tried.
Uh, yes. Yes.
Okay. So I say, this. Okay. Yeah. Console. Yeah. This is the project. Oh, bugger. So we have doing the sum of first 100 numbers. So I will do it uh, like this. What you have done, I can't say, but mm, I is less than equal to 100 and then I plus plus um, equal to sum plus I, and in the end I will say sum of first 100 numbers is dot read key. So now if I run my project or execute my code, yeah, it turns out to be 5050. So mm, you have done something like this only. Okay, now if I want to find the sum of first 500 numbers, then I can replace my number 100 by 500. So it will give me the result of first addition of first 500 numbers. So the thing is that you have to understand the logic that I am initializing my sum variable here, not inside the loop. As it if I give it inside the loop, now this will not this will give error as it says the name sum does not exist in the current context. As you can see that here the scope of sum variable is inside these curly brackets only. Okay, so I have initialized my sum variable outside the curly brackets so that it will not initialize again and again. Okay, now you see that we will use for loop for loop where we iterate in the Excel sheet where there is username, password, can say email and zip code. We will iterate through the entire Excel sheet. Okay, so now moving on to our next topic, which is arrays. Uh, Anusha and Dheeraj and Sonal as well, have you got any problem in understanding the previous topics?
So far, yeah, I'm able to follow.
Okay, okay. So if you got any problem, just ping me. Okay, now moving to our next topic, which is called arrays. So we will name it as arraystudy.cs and add my main method. So now you can see that we have some data like string username is like can say something like this, and now there is some password like you can say password, and there is some email which says ASD email @gmail.com, and there is some zip code like something like this. Now sometimes you have a lots of data. This is a little bit of data. Suppose you got 100 fields. Okay, so what we will use? We will use array. Array is basically a memory location, basically a memory location where you can store multiple values. Okay, now so how do we declare an array. So array is just like you can say it's a two-dimensional structure where it is presenting num- in rows and column. Here the first cell represents username, then password, then email, then zip code. And the rows represents the number of data, and it starts with zeroth row. Like if I say username this, now username here it's this, and password is can say password, and here it says email @gmail.com, and here it says zip code. Then again new data, yy, then again something password, then again my email, then again some zip zip code. So this way array is data is present inside the array. So how can we declare an array? We declare array like string equal to new string 3 comma 4, and give array name as something like x. Okay, now this is how two-dimensional arrays work. Now here 3 represents the number of rows, and 4 represents the number of columns. Suppose we have read the data from our Excel file and put it in our two-dimensional array, and we want to read each and every cell. So for that we can do as so if I want to find the uh, number of rows in array, I can find it by say x dot get length at 0. It will give me the number of rows. Suppose I will declare it as int rows, and for column I will get as you can see x dot get length. Okay, this will give me the number of columns. Now, suppose I want to iterate through each and say row int I equal to 0, I is less than, and say I is less than rows and I plus plus. This will give me each row, and for each column I will again, now I know the number of columns. This for loop will iterate through each row. Now I want to iterate through each column. For this, I can say write as for again for loop int y equal to 0, y is less than columns y plus plus. Now here I can write as console dot write line x I y. By this I can iterate through each cell of this two-dimensional array. Okay, so this is how we iterate through our array. Now the problem is that the, you can say, the drawback of 2D array is that string array cannot hold integer value and vice versa. Means integer array cannot hold string value. The thing is that I can't write, I can't display my integer value in this. And same way, integer array cannot hold the value of string. So for this, we have, can say today array, can say string array cannot hold integer value and vice versa. This is a very good interview question that interview can ask you that integer array can hold string value or not. The answer is no. Integer array cannot hold string value and string array cannot hold integer value as well. So for this problem, we have something like, say, object. Okay, and this is known as object array. And how we declare it is like this: new object and give the number of column rows only. This tree represents the number of rows. Now, what is an object array? Object array, you can see, is an inbuilt class system.objects, and it can hold any value. It can be string, it can be integer, it can be bool, it can hold any value. So we will study this object array in detail as we move on with our course when we actually read the data from Excel file in Selenium script. Right now, just remember that there is an object array which is an inbuilt class. We'll say it's an inbuilt class in C sharp which will hold all the data types inside it. I'm writing here object say array is an inbuilt class in C sharp and it holds all data types. Okay, now moving ahead with our topic, which is known as function. Now, for this, I will make a new class and name it as function study and add my main method to it. So, fun uh, what is the definition of function? Function is a small unit of execution. Okay, so this is main function, and the scope of this function is inside this curly brackets only. Okay, now I will create one more function. Suppose public static void and say test. Now you see that there is another function, and the scope of this function is inside these curly brackets. Now, what is this static? What is this void? What is public? It will be clear to you as we will proceed. Now, test is the name of function. So I will say console dot write line say in main function. Okay. Now here I will say in test function. Now first of all I have to make this as my startup class. Always when you make the startup class, just close this tab always. So when I execute my code, you will see that it will print in main function only. It will not print in text function. So functions are not executed by themselves. They can be executed, you can say function are declared inside the class body. They should be parallel. Function can be, so if I want to execute this test function, I will simply say test. Okay. Now say if I say console dot read key. Now if I again execute my code, now you see it will print both. So, and one more thing, functions are declared inside the class body and they should be parallel. I cannot declare a function inside another function. It will give me error. So it function can be called by another function, but it cannot can declared in another function. Suppose if I say one more function, public static void print name, and I say and I say in and say, so I can again call this function here and it will print this line as well. So now you see it will print all. So function can be called in another function, but you cannot declare function inside another function. So you can pass variables in the functions like I will say was public static void sum and can say string email and I will say in some function and I can print my email. Now suppose if I want to call this function, I can simply say sum and now you see it will give an error because you have passed one argument. So you have to give one argument over here. Suppose I say okay, now if I execute my code, now you see in some function and my email ID. So this way argument can be passed and you have to be very careful that when you execute a function or calling a function, so you have to be very careful that you have to be see the number of arguments has to be same. Suppose if I can say write one more string, you can say zip code, or you can say password. So now I have to pass one more value, or you can say one more argument. So there it will print password as well. And one more thing, suppose my third argument is in integer, and here if I and now I have to pass my third argument as integer only. Suppose if I want to pass something like string in string, now it will give an error. I cannot convert from string to int. Okay, so I have to be careful in passing arguments, that I have to pass the same argument as there in the function, and I have to pass the number of arguments same as in their function. If there is three arguments, I have to pass three values. This is compulsory. Otherwise, it will give error. Okay. Now, if somebody has problem in understanding this, he or she can ask me any question right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Abhijit.
Yeah.
Yeah, this functions is clear to me, but what I'm not able to follow is like I think the theoretical part, like what is class and what is object. I think in the previous program, right? Um,
Uh, what is class and what is an object? Okay. We can do it as in a personal, you can say personal meeting. I will tell you about in more detail. Right now, you don't know. This is the class. The scope of this class is inside these brackets only. Okay. And right now, I'm not going into object. I have just, you can say, this is an object array. You are confusing in this.
yeah, yeah. I mean, here, right? You used the x dot get length.
Yeah.
I think x here is a variable or an object.
This is an array. It's a two-dimensional array. I will name it as, you can say, I will name it as, you can say test. So I can
Okay.
name it as any. So here, my
Okay.
array name, it's the declaration of an array. I'm giving my array name as test. So
Okay. So
here,
here test is not a variable.
test is an
I
array.
think okay. And
Test is,
that dot get length, what are those called? Those.
this is the, you can say, by this I can find, I already told you that when I declared the array, 3 is number of rows and 4 is the number of columns. Here,
Yeah.
this is an array. You can say this is the 4 is the number of rows and 4 is the number of columns. If I want to declare this array, I can write it as 4. So here, 4 is the number of rows and 4 is the number of columns. This first part is representing the number of rows, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this part is representing the number of columns. So I will get this from my array, and I can iterate through each cell by running my for loop.
Yeah, yeah. For rows, right? Row number 23, you said get length of
Zero.
0.
Zero
So,
means this first. Zero. This is
okay.
zero. This is one.
So, that get length, what are those called? Are those methods, array methods, or what?
No, this is a, you can say, this is a predefined. If I say,
Inbuilt.
yeah,
Okay.
inbuilt. Suppose, if I suppose, you see that it is predefined.
Okay.
You can see and hover over here. You see that it represents the number of elements in the specified dimension of the array.
Okay.
Okay. So this way you get the number of rows, and this way you get the number of columns.
Okay.
Okay. So now we have done some loops, arrays, and function. Now we start with some object-oriented programming. Uh, Object-oriented programming language is very important in new version of Selenium, which is WebDriver, and it is purely object-oriented in nature. You have to learn object-oriented language in order to learn Selenium, or you can say that to learn architecture of Selenium. Now, in many interviews, you can say what is the architecture of Selenium. Now, until or unless you don't know the concepts of objects, interface, and all, you cannot explain the architecture of Selenium. So let's start with our object-oriented concepts. Now, first topic is static and non-static. So for this, I will make a new class, static, non-static study. Okay. Now, what does this static mean? You can see that first of all, I will make my new method, main method.
So in the
Static.
coming classes, will we be discussing about methods? What is method? What is main method? Purpose of it,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We will study about this now. Right now, I'm doing that as well. That what
Okay.
is we have studied that what is this static, what is non-static, what is void.
Okay.
Now I'm starting with static.
Okay.
Okay. Now static void main. Now I will make another function like public static void sum, and again I will make a new function or method, you can say, public void send email. Now you see that I don't use the word static in this function. So this is an non-static, can say non-static function or method you can think. And here I say I write static. So this is an static function. And you can clearly see the difference that I have used the word static. Okay, now let's say if I declare int I equal to, can say, 0 in my static, and I say int j equal to, can say, anything 100 in my non-static. Now there is something known as global variables and local variables. Now this variable I is an local variable. The scope of this variable is inside these brackets only. I cannot access I in another function. Suppose if I want to access I over here, you can say mm, console dot write line, and suppose if I want to print I, I, now it will give an error. Then it will say the name I does not exist in the current context. Okay, now suppose if I want to use this variable I globally. Okay, now then I can declare this as int I equal to 0. Now I can be used in any function, like you can see. Now one more thing here, it is global variable, and also global variable is are of two type. One is static global variable, and other is non-static global variable. Okay, now what is this static global variable and non-static global variable? As you can see that if I want to say, if I want to print I over here, so it will give an error, because you can say the error is an object reference is required for the non-static field method or something like that. It will give error because this is an non-static variable. So rule is that static function can access only static variable. Okay, so make it, to make it static, I can just write the word static. Now you see it will not give any error. So the rule is static function can access only static variable. Okay, it cannot access non-static variable, and I simply declare my variable static by writing the keyword static. So it can be accessed here, it can be accessed here as well. So now if I want to access I in my non-static function, then I can access these as well. So another thing that non-static function can access static as well as non-static variables. Okay, so this is very good and important, you can say, interview question, that non-static function can access static variables. Yes, they can. So you clearly will see here that my non you can say static variable I can access in my non-static function as well. Okay, but you see over here that if I declare int age equal to 0, I cannot access age over here because age is non-static. Only static data type is accessed in main function. But there is no rule associated with non-static. So the thing is that I'm again repeating, static function can access only static keyword. Okay, and non-static function can access static as well as non-static variables. Okay, so
Okay. One question away with so
yeah,
if we are defining the variable as a static, right, which means that uh, can we not, does it mean that we won't be able to change the data type of that variable?
no,
Like,
this is the word static. I'm just don't go in the meaning of the word. It's a, you can say, the word which is using static. I can access static variable. This is known as static variable. By using the keyword static, is this keyword static, this data type, you can say static is a data type. This data type can access only in you can say static function and as well as in non-static function. Static keyword can access inside. You can say this is non-static function, but it is again using my static keyword, static
okay,
variable. So the thing is that non-static function can access static. It can access both static or non-static. When I declare int age equal to 0, this means that it is a non-static variable. Okay, I cannot access age inside my main function.
yeah, actually I understand this access level, whatever you explained. What
Mhm.
I'm trying to understand is the difference between the static variable and the non-static variable, except the fact that the static has the keyword static.
Yeah, right now just don't go in too deep. Just focus on that there are two types of variables. One is static variable and one is non-static variable. Okay, and the rule, it's a rule that non-static function can access both variables, static as well as non-static, but static function can access only static variable.
Okay.
Okay, this is a rule.
Okay.
Okay, so I will end this class today as here only, because if I move forward, you will get confused. Just focus on this, do some practice on this, then I will move forward tomorrow, and I will understand. You can say I will give you some examples when I go into deep. Okay, so that's all for today. If somebody have any problem, you he or she can ask me now. So I think so. Everybody understands the today's topic. So we will meet tomorrow at the same time. And sorry for the problem today, as there is some electricity problem in my city. So we will meet tomorrow at the same time. Hope Dheeraj, are you there?
Oh, yes, Sanjit.
Yeah. So I think so. You have understand the concept as well.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay. And Sonal, have you understand the concept of static and non-static and a global and local variable?
Yes, yes, Abhijit. Yeah,
Okay,
it is clear.
so yeah, okay. Then please just I am writing my key points over here, and whenever you study, whenever you can say watch my video, just write down the important points in your notepad, in your you can say something like that, so that when you go for the interview or just remember the key points over there. Okay, so that's all for today. We will meet tomorrow at the same time. Okay, then bye. Okay, then
Thank
goodbye.
you. Bye.
Okay,
Thank
okay,
you.
okay,
Bye.
okay.